I was invited to say some shirim in London and do something else in London when I was there at the same time. I'm not actually sure if I should admit this, but the BBC... Sorry, is it not? Oh. Hello. I just tap the shirim Morse code over here. He's okay. Doesn't seem to work. So when I was there in London, 6 months ago, I was saying shiurim, and at the same time, there's a very, very interesting fellow who is a Baal Teshuvah, and he used to be a writer of comedy programs for the BBC. He's spoken recently in Manchester, and so he had put together a program it was a pilot for BBC Radio. I don't know if you ever Khalil listened to BBC Radio 4, but they often have these quiz shows. So he put together a quiz show that was called And God Laughed. And it was to be a quiz show about religion, more of a Rabbi sign. But it was to be Labor Dick at the same time. So there I was in London, and there was two teams. Have you ever listened to that thing, Just a Minute? Have you heard of Just a Minute? Or I'm sorry, I haven't a clue. These sorts of programs. I was brought up with these programs ever since I was a little one, and I always wondered how they did it. At the end of one of the programs, then they give them questions, and they're all so clever and they're all spontaneous. But I got the script a month beforehand, so I had a month to prepare my spontaneity. So there's me and a Christian guy in one panel, and a Muslim and an atheist guy in the other panel, and they were all, and the chairperson, they were all professional stand-up comedians. A live audience of 200 people, and it was, I have to tell you, it was actually very interesting, particularly because you want to see how they do these things. And I used to, when I was permanently based here in the UK, I used to, you may know, do BBC Radio and TV quite a lot. As a consequence of that, when Her Majesty the Queen, when she was in Manchester about 5 years ago, she was presented to the president of the Jewish community, and she shook his hand, and she said, "Is Rabbi Wai here?" And yeah, I know. And he said, "No, ma'am." And she said, "What a pity. We listen to him all the time on the radio, and we think he's awfully good." So this, I have to tell you, because of what I do for my main parnosa, which is speak all over the world, particularly in the United States of America, it does no harm on the posters when it says, admired by the Queen of England. It looks mamish very, very geschmack. And I must admit, at the time when I heard that, I thought it can only be a few days before the letter comes in the post. Sir, why Rubinstein? Lord Broughton Park. I mean, it was inevitable. And it never happened, which is I never actually got to meet her, even though she obviously wanted to meet me, which is a terrible tragedy for Her Majesty. I saw recently, the problem is that because I say this a lot in my shiur, particularly in America, and you know, if you're margish yourself in an Indian, even though be'emes, it's nishkin glik, nishkin groisazach, but you can be mechanech yourself in a sheker. And we know what it says in Pirkei Avos. In Pirkei Avos, it says in Perek Daled Mishnah Kof Aleph, Rabbi Loza HaKapor Oimer, Akina v'Atayved v'Kovod, Moitzinas ha'odam min ha'olam. That these three things take a person out from this world. I remember the Manchester Rosh Hashiva Zecher Tzadik Livrocha telling me that once he had a Talmud of his who was offered, I think it was a lordship or a knighthood, one of these things, and he came to ask the Rosh Hashiva, should he accept the honor? And the Rosh Hashiva said, all I can tell you is that the scar you get in Olam Hazeh, or rather the Kovod you get in Olam Hazeh, is detracted from the Kovod you're given in Olam Haba. Oh! So he took the knighthood. Over Mol, he myself saying this, and it can sink in. And last week or 2 weeks before, there was, I saw on the BBC News, the thing that they publish online, that the new list of those who were given Kovod had come out. And one of the people I happened to know, and I thought to myself, are you serious? You thought they were going to give it? If he gets one of those, would you want one of those? And that's the sort of, probably, I'm sure many very worthy people become knights and lords and all that sort of stuff. After speaking, it's quite clear that some people who are not worthy of Kovod get that Kovod. And usually just because they give money to a political party or something like that. What is Kovod? What's emes dicke Kovod? Versteht sich, there is Kovod which is sheker gomer. But what is real Kovod? What should really Kovod be about? And according to this, Kovod is a one-way ticket out of the world to Gehenna, because I'll say not this world, but Olam Haba. So Kina Time and Kovod remove a thing from the world. So I thought it might be interesting, seeing it was in my mind, to consider these three things. What is, let's talk about Taiva for a second. I daven from the Seder Agron normally, and there is a commentary here, and they're printed in the Seder Agron, Tzia Hitzchok. When it says Lo Sasur Acher Levavchem, the Vilna Gaon says something, or rather, Tzia Hitzchok, no, it's okay, it's the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon says something very interesting. He says, Gimel Taivas Ba'odam. So, we've got Kovod and Kina and Taiva. So there's three types of Taiva. And three types of words that describe those Taivas. Chayfetz, Chemda, and Taiva. So he says, Chayfetz l'achila. Chayfetz is the word that goes properly with achila. Right? So you might say, I've got Taiva for a cholent, or for pizza. That's incorrect. Chayfetz for pizza. And Chemda goes to Mona. Chemda l'mona. Taiva, listeners. And Taiva refers to znus. And he brings a posset to prove that. And then he ends up with just this little short comment by saying, Taiva, godel min achemda, achemda godel min achifos. So of the three Taivas, the three physical Taivas, the worst of all, interesting, we live in a world where you would expect, and particularly in our dar, when that particular Taiva we're bombarded by. So we're bombarded by it, and it's the worst. It's the biggest challenge. And that's obviously distressing and upsetting. And Taka, I wondered, and are they linked? Kina Taiva and Kovod. It can't be a coincidence that those are the ones that Elazar Kapper chooses. So, Taka Moshe Feinstein, I find this in a sefer called Mishal HaObus. And Moshe Feinstein, I think where they bring it from, he says a very interesting thing, and it's there to be particularly appropriate as we're in the 3 weeks. Sibas Hasina should be an Odom Mechiber, right? And we're all here because of Verstetzach Sinas Chinam. An interesting thing, what is Sinas Chinam? I mean, Chinam. I mean to hate somebody for no reason whatsoever, which seems a bit strange because most people hate other people. They rationalize it with some sort of reason. So it's obvious, therefore, that the Chinam is because be'emes there is no reality to it. You hate somebody, Bristarish. It's false. So, of course, Moshe Feinstein says that this. The sina between human beings, the side of sina is midas rois. The shlosha midas rois hein avos atuma. And there are three midas rois, which are the avos atuma, which are the, as it were, the three kings of sina. Kina, Taiva, and Kovod. So he wants to say that Kina, Taiva, and Kovod are the source, really, of Churban Basheni. And, of course, if we are in a door in which, as the Gemara says, we don't see the temple rebuilt, we are behaving precisely and exactly as the door we're going to destroy. So it must be that Kovod, Kina, and Taiva are something which we are struggling with and failing with right now. Okay, Hiska Rebbe Loza Kapar Dafka Lisa. So he says that's why, says Ramesh Feinstein, he selects those three midas rois. There are more midas rois, of course. A Kovod who achayma mikulam, and Kovod is the worst. So we saw a minute ago that of the three Taivas for physical zachin, and Taiva business is worse than Monim and for food. But of Kovod and Taiva and Kina, then Kovod's the worst. Acharab Kina, so he says, first Kovod is worse. Acharab Kina, And then kina, that's the next one as well. In this triad, in this triangle, the taiva is the least. Because it is a natural thing that you have to have because you're a human being. It applies to everybody. It causes the next generation, to be put it in crude terms. So says Moshe Feinstein. Go back to him in just a second. Rav Shlomo Volba in Sefer Ali Shor, he says an interesting insight, because I wondered, is there a tzad shava b'neihem? Is there a connector between these three things? And he says, of course there is. So this is what Rav Shlomo Volba says. He says, what's kina? When a person is kina ish l're'ehu, soisum b'fonov es derech l'koros hashgocha. Then how kina works is, I'm jealous of something that you have. You just bought yourself a new Mercedes-Benz or something like that. And I'm jealous of that. He says that feeling of jealousy is innately a contradiction to the belief that Hashem runs the world, that Hashem has hashgocha over the world. It's not a coincidence that you get the Mercedes-Benz and I don't. Hashem feels you can deal with the Mercedes-Benz and I can't. And that's probably true. And it seems to be, I once told you I have a relation, a distant relation, who lost £13 million in one deal. Right, one deal, £13 million. As a consequence of this fellow, who was a delightful fellow, became a recluse and didn't leave his home for 3 years, because he knew that his friends knew that all he had left was £13 million. And I ask you in all honesty, could you face the world? People thought that all you had was 13 million. I would not be standing here today in front of you if you thought that all I was worth was 13 million pounds, right? So he says, he got it all back. The whole siksach with the Lloyd's names, you remember that back there? The people who invest in Lloyd's, and it was a whole thing. That's how he lost the money. But he got it all back. And then his brother passed away, inherited him, he was much richer. And then the mother passed away, she was really the queen of the money in the family. It seems to be that Rabbi Shalom, for some peculiar reason, doesn't want Yehuda Rubinstein to something like £60 million. But I actually believe that he knows a little bit more than me. He obviously calculates that I would not deal well with £60 million, whereas perhaps this relation of mine, he knows what to do with it. Sure. So if you're jealous of something, automatically, you're trying to say, yeah, well, haven't you slipped up here? You gave it to him? Why? So it's a chutzpah because you seem to have said to the Rebbe Shem, you've miscalculated. Okay. What is Kovod? So he says, Kovod is ki onam hazehu olam havodah. Now we all know that we're here in order to put things right in ourselves and help other people. And tzaddikim taka, their focus is the next world, not this one. And we're very, very particular to avoid Kovod. There's a beautiful story about Moshe Feinstein and Yaakov Kamenetsky just towards the end of their lives. When they're going into one of these big, like the scene of Shas, in America, they take these big football stadiums. I was there actually, the last one. And there was many people, 60,000 people, 60,000 Yid from Yid, the scene of Shas. So they wanted to bring in Moshe and Yaakov, and there was a big fight between the two. Who should go first? So Moshe said, of course, Yaakov. And eventually they made a Peshorah, and the Peshorah is them going together, so that their wives should have a bit of a know, because of course, it states that when you're in vigor of the God Lador, your family is deprived of the attention that maybe they would have hoped for. So the Sir Shal the Kabul Skarbo in a Mazeh, and he says he brings the Rosh from the Archas Chaim the Rosh, and tzaddikim were particular not to get Skar and not to get Kovod in Olam Mazeh, because that detracts, as the Manchester Shiva told this fellow who got this award from the Queen, that don't take it because you're going to lose out upstairs. Fine. And then Kina, Greg talked a little bit about that. So therefore, Kina and Kovod and Taiva, bad things. Let's go back a little bit to Moshe Feinstein. And Moshe Feinstein, he says a little bit further than this. Balakina,
Choma Yosef Balatai. Why is the Balakina bad? So he says, Ki Kina Eina Naves Mitzat Tivoi. Because Kina doesn't, in actual fact, flow. It's, if you think of this logically, to be jealous of somebody else is very interesting. What makes you jealous of somebody else? He gives the example of somebody who is a simple fellow who lives in the village. So he's very happy if he's got what he needs to get by in life, right? A good harvest, he can sell his crop, he can buy clothes for his kids, etc. Fine. If you took that standard of living, that's Yotz design, that just getting by, and came to somebody who lives in the city who's a rich fellow and said, that's what you're going to have next year, for him this would be a terrible thing. It would be an awful thing. That's all? What about my pool? Who's going to service my pool and my tennis court, etc., etc.? So it's very interesting. He says, the truth of the matter is, there's no difference between the two. What they need to survive as human beings is identical. Why is it that the person who is the rich person would be, for him this would be Gehenna? The fact that all he's got is enough for his basic requirements for the year. Even though be'emes they're the same. Why? Why would the rich person feel impoverished by the very same things that make the poor person feel rich? Because this fellow spends his whole time being mechanic and jealous of other people in his circle, and they've got 2 Rolls Royces and 3 Rolls Royces and stuff like that. So he says, Kina is of course something when a person is not happy with what he has got. Taiva, he says, Taiva is very interesting. Listen how Rabbi Feinstein touches Taiva. And remember what he's saying here, all these are the sources of Sina between other people. When it comes to Sina, says Ramosha, this is obviously the source of. Fine. So you're jealous of somebody else, and then you come to hate him. Then he says, Taiva, what does that mean? So he says, now we say you want and desire something which somebody else has. And he says, and for whatever reason, the fellow won't give you. He won't be able to sign you up to his business deal. There won't be a business partner, whatever. Sign him and everything. You come to hate him. So you believe that he's the source of the thing that's stopping you getting what you want. But maybe later a differ, so it comes that you believe that it's his fault and you might want to kill the person. etc. And it causes tremendous machlokas, etc. Because you believe he has got what you want and you want to get him out of the way to get it. He says that's the source of war between people, between nations. And then he finishes with this idea that Kovod's the worst. But the worst of all is a balakov. Somebody who's desperate to have Kovod. And I once told you, somebody told me this in the Sefer when I used to teach in the seminary here. One of my seminary girls, which is speaking Shavuot, said, I'm worried the Gazach, because the Chazal tell us everybody chases after Kovod, Kovod chases away from you. It runs away from you. So you're chasing after Kovod, and here's Kovod running away from you. And you run away from Kovod, he's chasing after you. So she asked a very brilliant question. So, you're almost the same distance away from him. If you're running after Kovod and you're that far away, you're that far away. If you're chasing away from Kovod and running after you, you're still that far away. What difference does it make? And she said something brilliant. When you get older, you slow down. Isn't that brilliant? When you get older, you slow down. So if you've been chasing it your whole life, and you're running away from it your whole life, well, guess what? When you're older, you slow down and it catches you up, like Rabbi and Rabbi Yaakov said. But if you've been chasing it your whole life, never! As you get older, you slow down. Whoa! It gets farther and farther away from you. The worst of all is balakov. You got nothing to be jealous of somebody else. It's not a question of, he's got and you want. But you just believe you're better than him. In actual fact, completely. I'm more money than the guy. I deserve more Kovod. I'm a bigger Talmud Chacham than the guy. People should stand up for me on the chair when I come into the room. And you want people to give you Kovod. And you can never have enough Kovod. It's an endless thing. And therefore he says that's the worst of all. And you hate people who won't give you Kovod. Stand up for me. I know this one will be better.
And you get very upset with it. Yeah. There's a Kermit C on the subject, which I thought was very interesting. The Kermit C points out, it says, Hakina, Ha-Kovod, Ha-Taiva. Why does it say Kovod, Kina, and Taiva? What's that? Ha-ha-ha. No joke intended. Sorry. So he says, Tanakilim Behi, we're all left Behi, Yan Gibshlosha Yesh Tzad Heta Lefa'am. Because there is a Tzad Heta in sometimes. Sometimes, aside from Tarba Chochma, that is the, I think I once told in the Ber Yosef says, of all the ways to, all the drachim to increase your success in avoid Hashem, avoid that one. Avoid that. Aside from Tarba Chochma. Because the thing is, he knows more than you, and therefore you want to get up to where he is, and therefore you're supposed to learn more. But there's another way of equaling him. Pull him down. So he says, avoid that one. That can be not such a good idea. The second hay and the third, he says, because the hay is the hay you do it. Ha-Kovod. That means normal Kovod for most people is a disaster. But sometimes Kovod be good. Sometimes it's appropriate to give Kovod. Talmud Chacham walks into the room, Rabbi Gervitz, and Shlita walked in here, we would stand up and give him Kovod, and that's appropriate. And Taiva, of course, as we mentioned before, can be used in a positive purpose. So he says the hay how you deal because Bedera Klal, it's a disaster. There are yotzim in a Klal, but Bedera Klal, no. And that's why it says Pirkei Avos. Here again, stuck in Pirkei Dalet again. It says the following thing: Reb Levitas ish Yavna oimer mo'oid hebish falruch. Even though that Kovod is something to be avoided like the plague, and it can be good, but the default position, the correct and normal position, is to be an incredibly humble person, like myself. And the Bar Tanura goes on and fills in the details, and he says the following thing: even though, as the Rambam says, in all other midas, the mitlisha derech, the golden mean, is the appropriate approach. But midas of gaiva ain't a king. It's not so with gaiva. That you should always go to the other extreme. Because Hashem considers a Baal Gaiva to be the worst. And most people fall in the idea of Kovod. And therefore in this one you have to go to the opposite extreme. Fine. There's a Rabbi Dessler. And Rabbi Dessler, we read this together 3 years ago. Rabbi Dessler in Chelik Aleph of Mikta Milion, page 99. He's got a very short essay here called Hamoshel v'Hanimshel. Hamoshel v'Hanimshel. How would you translate the word moshel? Whatever parable means. Anybody in the world use the word parable? Anyway, a parable and a nimshel, how do you translate it? The moral. The moral. Parable and moral. Very good, my son. So a moshel is an illustration. I'm going to translate it as pretense. You pretend. Let's pretend there was a king. We have to incidentally update our moshels. I'm sick to death of the king. Right? I said, go on, the prince. Enough. Make it the CEO of a company. And the queen. So, let's say the moshels are pretense. It never happened. There was never a king. There was never a forest. There was never a castle. And then there's the nimshel. The nimshel is the reality that it wants to. When you've got a difficult idea, you get the moshel, and you pretend it's such to get the idea across. And listen to what you read. It's beautiful. He says, the moshel who sipur devarim shelo hoya v'lo nivra. Just like I said, the moshel is a story that never happened, never took place. We call it the Elsa boy, and the only purpose that it has, the kol ha'emes ha'metzias shel boy, and the truth that does in the pretense apply, who rak b'maz, only as much as v'ad kama, and as much as shu'siyah l'shroman l'hasik es ha'nimshel. It allows you to understand the point that's being illustrated, the nimshel. Miata, ma nemer al adam ha'yetz mi'beis ha'medrash. So as if Rabbi Dessler, a quick change of tack here. What would you say to somebody who spent 7-8 years in yeshiva or koilel, leaves yeshiva and koilel, and all he's got is the pretense. He never actually got to the reality.
And if you think that's a strange idea, this idea of living a life of pretense, he says that is far more common. That occurs far more frequently than you might have thought. So you've got children, he says, who like to play, we all know. You get a little boy in a box, in an egg box. When you're a little boy in an egg box, that is a ship or an airplane, and you are the captain of the ship. Think back, it wasn't too long ago. Remember when you ran around going, that's going to sound very strange on the recording, incidentally. But you ran about, I better explain. With your arms out making the noise like a plane's engine, you were playing! Weren't you playing? About I was always playing. Who asked my Kabanit, you're the captain of the plane on the ship of Shoshu, who also played. And when you're a little kid and you're playing that game, when you're pretending, Harry had Dimian Be'enav Kamitsias, that's reality to you. When you get a little bit older, you become a teenager, you're not playing anymore. You're not playing ships, but it's but there's lots of pretense in the reality of life, what your ambitions are, what you hope for. Harry Adam writes to the Kovod. A person likes Kovod. And even though you know the Mishnah, and even you know that Kovod is something you shouldn't chase after, if you chase after runs away from you, it's a one-way ticket to hell. Oh, that's Ishmael. It's quite nice though, isn't it? If people think you're a Kanaka, that you're a Geshmaka Yid, oh, that's pleasant. And it upsets you and distresses you if people don't agree with your estimation of your worth and importance. So if the emes, the whole thing is a thing. If the emes, as we said, that the tzad shava between Kina, Kaif, and Kovod, as Rav Shlomo Wolbe said, that the emes, the reality of the world, that this is not real. The next world is real. And all these things are a distraction from a belief that Hashem controls the world. But this is even worse, he says. What do you gain if other people think you are choshev? In actual fact, you're not choshev. Then surely Kovod is that in itself you're worthy of Kovod. And whether other people know it or not, that's irrelevant. You're a Kovod Dikemensh. And whether people are aware of the fact, that doesn't matter, because your reality is you're Kovod Dikemensh because your she'ifas to Olam Haba, not Olam Hazeh. And then he says very strong, I remember reading this to you. Listen to this, just 3 lines. And there are some people who never really grow up, who like to pretend and play games for the whole of their life. That's people who get Kovod and desire Kovod through money. Everybody knows. And sometimes he knows too. That nobody really is interested in him. It's just his checkbook. Oh, look this here. And the little sort of like cash register in the mind is going up and up and up. I have a very good friend, and he is a very good friend. He's in charge of a meiset, and he tells me he hates when he walks into a room. I walk into a room, I see smiley faces, and I smile back. He immediately, it's his job. No, he's worth maybe I could get that. The whole thing is a calculation of how much is in the bank account. And these people keep up with your deals and the grapevine and how well you're doing. And then, oh, how are you? It's so nice, you must come and see the yeshiva, etc. etc. Never. Oh, he likes it. No, he doesn't. He likes your money. Never. Yeah. So I was worrying about the fact that the Queen likes me. And I'm going to say that all the time. Maybe that sort of Kovod, because you say it all the time, would become a reality to me. And I got a patch. When I saw this fellow, who's really a Miyasa, who was recently honoured, and I thought, oh, for goodness sake, did you think that was Kovod? That's not Kovod. Listen to this. There's a letter. I teach in a yeshiva called Shor Yoshev in Long Island. It's a big yeshiva. And one of the Mashgiach is a fellow called Rabbi Majorovic. And he gave me this letter, a copy of this letter, which was sent from the Talmidim to the Talmidim of Mir after the Petira of Rabbi Rucham. And
And it was to tell them, give them the 6 takonas here to keep themselves on the derech and not be seduced by America as so many were, particularly in those days. And it's one of these old Gestetner things. And not only that, they didn't even get it in the same, you have to read it that way. They didn't quite get it. And at the end of the letter, it's very sweet, it says that if the Talmidim could, so the purpose of the publication of this, the stamp, and the letters, and the envelope, I'll call Echad Lishlach dollar Echad. Because they could also have the dollar, so that was their hasagas, etc. in those days. And here there's 6 interesting takonas. When I saw one of these takonas, I was so excited. Because I remember once telling the story, I once went to see the Manchester Rosh Hashiva, it's a college. I used to run an organisation here in Manchester called Oil Rivka. It was a shearing for ladies. And it started off with, it was 180 ladies used to come every Sunday night for 3 shearer, myself and Roger Kupitz and Diane Westheim. And the idea was to give like a whole seminary once on a Sunday night once a week. So at the end of the first Zman, I thought it'd be a nice Kovod if I could invite the Manchester Rosh Hashiva to come to address the ladies, to celebrate this achievement. So I went down to the yeshiva on Sunday, and I stood outside. There was 3 people who had made a point to see the Rosh Hashiva, and one of them had come from London, one had come from New York, and one come from Eretz Yisrael. They all had appointments, and I was gate crunching. So everybody took a safe, and the Rosh Hashiva had a little bed in his office. He used to go for shloch before afternoon singing. And basically, he was a bit late. So one of them plucked up courage and opened the door and peeked in. He said, "Oh, he's awake. He's just come to the basic Kisa." So a few minutes later, the door opened, and the Rosh Hashiva, of course, those of us who knew him, was very diminutive. And this small figure, tiny figure, appeared, and gave a little nod and called the first fellow, was the guy from New York, in. So he saw me, and I didn't have an appointment, he said, "Give me a little smile." And so I went back, the door closed. And the door opened again a few seconds later, and out came the Rosh Hashiva. Yehuda. So it opened, and he said to me, "Yehuda, are you saying Shirin today?" I said, "Yes, Rosh Hashiva." So he said to the fellow from New York, "Rabbi Rubinstein is saying Shirin today, he has to come in first." Psst. I floated in. The Rosh Hashiva said, "Yehuda, I've just been to the basic Kisi, I just have to make a bracha." So we sat at the table, and you all know how the Manchester Rosh Hashiva made a bracha. So it's actually interesting to shine an Iris Moshe with this. Of course, the Rosh Hashiva took the seat, Asher Yotze. And this is exactly, many of you will have seen this yourself. They started to say the bracha Asher Yotze. I remember he closed up his eyes, I can't remember if he covered his eyes or not, and he started to cry. Baruch! And then he translated Baruch into Yiddish. Atom! And so on and so forth. It took him about, I think, 4 minutes to say Asher Yotze. A few minutes before, I was thinking I was a big knacker. A few seconds later, I was thinking I'm a goy l'mahadra. What kavona have I ever put in to an Asher Yotze? What kavona did I put into Asher Hakol? I'm not interested in the bracha, I'm interested in the chocolate. I'm just going to mumble these words and I get to the chocolate. That's my kavona! And the Rosh Hashiva went, wow! And I felt like. And this letter from the Talmidim and the Mir, of course, the Manchester Rosh Hashiva was the Talmud of Rabbi Yerucham and the Mir. It says something very interesting. It says that, I'm going to hold it the right way. One of the takonas is when it comes to Shemona Esrei. It says you've got to concentrate on the first bracha of the Shemona Esrei. Listen to this, and make sure you know the words of the Shemona Esrei. You've got to know the words of the Shemona Esrei. What it means. What does Baruch mean? And we all know there's tons of saying just what the word Baruch means. And you've got, the next takana was, you've got to daven the first word Baruch, and the next word as though that's the only thing you've got to daven. Forget Atom, just Baruch. Just concentrate on that word, that's all you got to, and think of all what it means. And then you go on to the next word. And that should be the first Baruch of the Shemona Esrei. And when I saw this here in black and white, I went, that's what the Rosh Hashiva was doing. He's a Talmud of Rabbi Yerucham. And this, as it says here, that was his Rabbi Yerucham's derech. And that's why he's attached it into Yiddish. The Ramosh Feinstein says that's not the derech for everybody, but this Oisad Sadik, it doesn't say who it was, of course, that's lingual on the word. But that's why he did that. His Mama Loshem was Yiddish, so Baruch, when he attached it into Yiddish, that was him putting every kavona he could into Baruch. And then he would go on to the next word. Rabbi Nessa says, the Be'emes, if you live your life for everybody else, then there's Kovod, which is Meduna, there's Kovod, which is Falsh,
It's Kovod, which is ridiculous. However, there's an interesting other Mishnah here, and it says here, Hu ya'enu, kol sheruach habrias noch imenu, ruach hamokum noch imenu. Seems to be a contradiction to the Rabbi does. If other people give you Kovod, then you automatically know that Hashem gives you Kovod. The Rabbi Dessa says that if you live your life for other people's adulation, then that's false, automatically false. So the Tosfos Yonah says, Kol sheruach habrias noch imenu, perish harav, kol mish oyev lamata, b'yidushu ohav lamata. So that's what Torah said. You're beloved down here, automatically you're beloved upstairs. But then the Tosfos Yonah goes on and says something very, very interesting. And he brings kama Gemaras and Rashis, sheperushai keinim ketzas toiva, beprat, azov, etc., etc. Ruach chachmi Yisrael b'masa. What does brias mean? That ruach habrias have pleasure in you. It means the ruach of the Talmidei Chachamim. If Talmidei Chachamim think well of you, then Hashem Yisborach thinks well of you. Not stam ma'amoid am, not the people rushing about with their, wait to get bits of your money. But if you're Rabbis, if you're Rosh Yeshiva, if you're Rabbonim have a high opinion of you, then you know Hashem Yisborach has a high opinion of you. And that's something to have Kovod. Not all Kovod's bad. There's the head, ha-Kovod. But there's a sort of Kovod which is good. And that sort of Kovod, that's when you're Rosh Yeshiva. I had Kovod, I was given Kovod by the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva. He said, Yehuda, you've got to come in first. That's Kovod. I was close to Rabbi Gurbitz, Rabbi Blapin. I'm close to Rabbi Matasio Solomon. I've been close to Gedalim. And I put down in my, that's what I should put down. Not the Queen liked me. The Queen wanted to meet me. Rosh Yeshiva Gate said wanted to meet me. Or it was under Talmud of theirs. If they had a high opinion, that's Kovod. And one last thing. Because the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva used to daven that way, because I now discovered, I was so excited when I found this letter, why he used to daven that way, I decided I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. Like a Balvic. Let's try that. And I find it not bad. So just one word at a time, Baruch. I know quite a few sorry, but I've got to say the word Baruch, what it really means, etc., etc., and that's stellt. Then I moved on to the next word. And I came to a grinding halt in the middle of my Shemona Esrei, the next word. It says Ato. It says Ato. Ato! If Rabbi Gurbitz walked in here today, he'd say, how are you? Would you like a seat? Would the Rosh Yeshiva like a seat? How is the Rosh Yeshiva? And even Lahavdil the Queen. Your Majesty, you say. Ma'am. You say, hello, Elizabeth. When you're talking to Rob, you're talking to Tzaddik, you're talking to Rabbi, to Rosh Yeshiva, you speak in the third person, you get Kovod to them. But that's only a Rosh Yeshiva, or a king or a queen, but this is the Melech Malki HaMelachim. You. Baruch Ato. How can you address Hashem as Baruch as you? And I'm just stopping. I didn't even say it, I just suddenly, I'm going to say Ato. How do you say Ato? Somebody told me, it's a Chivas of Rashba, but the Chofetz Chaim says, I've not found out where yet. The Chofetz Chaim says, because the people you've got to give Kovod to, really got to give Kovod to, like a Rosh Yeshiva, a Rav, etc. Of course, you address them in the third person, but there is somebody you've got to give Kovod to and you have to admire from that you do address in the first person. Who's that? Your father. Daddy, can you help me? Daddy, can you give me a lift to Presswood? Daddy, whatever it is. Because he's your father. It says the Kovod Chaim, it's a semen of this carvus of the Rabbanah Shalom to you and you to the Rabbanah Shalom. He allows you to call him Ato. That's Kovod! Now that's Kovod! What the fact that Rosh Yeshiva like me, that's gewaldig! But imagine the fact that you, all of us, in this door where we're schlepping on this Tisha B'Av, knock on Tisha B'Av, the Rabbanah Shalom likes you. One last quick thing. I was in San Jose saying Shirin about 6 months ago. My wife and I were walking along one of these walkways. And you know these motorized things you go along. And there was glass cases in the middle. So people are coming that way, we're going that way. Glass cases in the middle from a museum. And inside were clay pots. There were clay pots inside, and they were broken. Or they had been broken I discovered later, it's something called kintsukorai, Japanese word. In Japanese culture, Chinese and Korean, they take broken pot. A clay pot's a very boring thing. But once it's been broken, what they do is they glue it back together, but the glue has got gold dust in it. And they look stunningly beautiful. It's like veins. So pots that have been broken, they glue it back together with real gold dust, and you've no idea what a beautiful thing it looks with the gold going through it. But it looks better now that it's been, you almost want to break the pot to glue it together with the gold to make it look nice. It looks better when it's been broken and it's been put back together again, when it's put itself and it looks beautiful. You say you. That's real cool. Your clothes, and even though it's another t-shirt of on the horizon, sometimes we just don't get it right because we don't feel choshev enough. And sometimes we don't realize that we are choshev. And the eyes of Hashem is baruch. And kina, taiva, and kovod are things that we can cure, we can work on, and we can end the goals. We can put clothes back together again, and those cracks will be filled with gold. They will look more beautiful next time than we've ever looked before.